Hi, my name is Jess and welcome to my channel, Reads with a Ravenclaw. Today I thought I'd make a video addressing a topic that I've been wanting to go into ever since I started this channel, and that is my least favourite book tropes. And there are a surprising amount of them. This was meant to be a top 5 video, but it turned out into a top 7 because it turns out that there are a lot of things that annoy me when reading. These 7 tropes are in no particular order, so let's just get started. The first trope I have on this list is the poorly characterised mean girl. I was going to say that this seems like a trope that's mainly based in YA, but since I've started to read more adult books, I've noticed that there's a variation of this sort of character in a lot of novels. And in a lot of rom-coms too. I remember I read a really great essay on BuzzFeed a while ago about the evolution of the mean girl figure, and that really got me thinking about this trope, and it made me realise how much I hated it. And the reason I hate it is because I feel like often that poorly characterised, one-dimensional mean girl character is only there to make the protagonist look better, and I don't like that. If you literally need to have a horrible person in the story to make your protagonist seem good by comparison, it just seems like a weak way of doing things. If there is a mean person in a story, I want them as fleshed out as I'd like any other villain fleshed out. I want to be able to understand them and understand why they are that way, because if you can't sort of make that path in your mind of how they came to be this way, then I don't really think that that's very strong characterization. This is something that really ruined the first book in Jenny Han's To All the Boys I Loved Before series for me. I really loved that book, but there is a mean girl character in that book called Genevieve, and I just felt like she wasn't fleshed out at all, and the book would have been so much more dynamic and so much more interesting if she had been. Can you hear my dog barking in the background? She hates mean girl stereotypes too. Number 2 on my list is the badly written bad boy. Notice how I don't say that the bad boy is a literary trope that I don't like, because I actually quite enjoy those characters, even though I hate the phrase bad boy and it makes me cringe, because I think if they're well done, they can be super dynamic, super interesting, and I think, like a lot of people, have a tendency to latch on to that sassy, fun, sarcastic character, because I think that's a character type that a lot of people do love when they're done well, because when they're done badly, they just feel like the world's biggest cliche. You know, on a general level, I think those characters are super risky anyway, especially in YA contemporary novels, because it is so easy just to take it a bit too far and to take a character who's naturally a bit morally questionable and make them into somebody who is emotionally abusive, and I think that's a pattern that we see so many times. I'm absolutely fine with bad boy characters, but I don't like it when the author uses it to portray emotionally abusive romantic relationships as something that is at all desirable. We've got girls who started reading YA when they were 13, 14 like me, who are reading these characters and are thinking, oh yeah, that's what I want in a relationship. It's really not. Yeah, the badly written bad boy is a big one for me. I think if you're going to have a bad boy in your story, you really need to know them inside out, and you need to really carefully monitor them so you know that they're not going to slip into a character that's just abusive, essentially. Number 3 is a big one for me, and it's insta-love. I've watched so many least favourite book trope videos recently just so I can get a sort of idea of what other people are saying, and this is one that I'm 99% sure has come up in every video, which I think shows how annoying it is and how so many people don't like it. Don't get me wrong, I am a huge romantic when it comes to books. I know a lot of people who'd rather the books didn't have romantic subplots, but I actually really love books that do. I think that love and romance can be such a powerful tool for characterization with characters because it shapes them so much to go through a relationship. I hate it when it's insta-love. I believe in lust at first sight. I believe in kind of liking someone at first sight in that kind of way where you want to know more about them. In my opinion, you can't fall in love with someone as quickly as a lot of authors portray their characters falling in love. It just cheapens the whole relationship for me, because where I haven't seen that process of them falling in love and viewing each other differently, I won't be as invested in it as a reader. Number 4 is another one that I've seen come up frequently, and I couldn't not include it even though I've seen it come up so many times, and that is love triangles. This one also comes up mainly in YA novels, but I've also read a couple of adult novels that have them, particularly fantasy novels for some reason, and I don't like them. In my my opinion, it is completely plausible to be attracted to two people. It's something that's probably very normal. But whenever a protagonist finds herself, and it's normally a her, let's face it, it's normally a her, whenever she finds herself in this situation and she's trying to weigh between those two guys, it irritates me so much because there's just such a lack of consideration about it. It's two people's feelings you're playing with. It doesn't even make for a good plot conflict because 9 out of 10 times you know right from the start who the protagonist is going to end up with. So it doesn't really add anything to the story in my opinion. There is one love triangle that I really enjoyed, however. I read The Infernal Devices by Cassandra Clare a couple of years ago and I really enjoyed that love triangle because even though there was one, I never felt like any of the characters involved in it lacked consideration for the other characters in that triangle. Number 5 is one that I mainly see in fantasy and dystopian, and that is the need for a woman to literally be a warrior or a fighter in order to be considered strong. Which is a pretty long trope title, I'm aware, but I think it happens so often and it's something that irritates me so much because I feel like in fantasy books particularly, strength is only ever considered strength if it's physical strength, and this applies a lot to women. I think a lot of writers are like, oh look, I have a strong female character, be happy, I can pass the Bechdel test, but all they've really done is taken that woman, put a sword in her hand and then declared her a strong woman. And I'm not saying that these women aren't strong women at all, but I'm saying that it isn't healthy to be portraying the only type of strength as physical strength or strength in battle. There are so many different types of strength and so many people can be strong, and it's bad and it's unhealthy and it's such a bad message to have strength be portrayed as something that needs to manifest itself physically, and I really wish it happened less. Number 6 is the girl that realises she was pretty all along. I have absolutely nothing against a girl learning to love herself. I think that that is an excellent storyline. Well, not just a girl really, anyone learning to love themselves and accept themselves for who they are. Of course that's going to be a really important and integral part to any character's character arc or journey. I hate it when that self-love needs to be entirely driven by being considered attractive. It needs to be driven by the girl taking off her glasses and everyone realising she was beautiful all along. So we'll actually quite like glasses. I don't think they have like a negative effect on anybody's physical attractiveness at all. Sometimes I think it adds to it personally. What really annoys me about this trope, and I've been thinking about it for a couple of days now and I think I've finally got to the core of it, is that it teaches people that you either have to change yourself to be beautiful or you have to be viewed as by somebody else as attractive to be considered beautiful, which are just two hugely problematic things in my opinion. So yeah, that one really grates on my nerves. And finally, I wouldn't say that this last trope is one that makes me angry at all, and it also probably wouldn't have that big an impact on my rating. It's just a little like pet peeve of mine that I thought I'd include at the end, just because it is something that I've noticed repetitively and it annoys me. And again, this mostly happens in fantasy or things that have a fantastical element to them, and it is the protagonist who within 15 minutes is suddenly good at everything. As soon as the protagonist finds out that they're involved in some magical world, there's a training montage for about 5 pages and then suddenly they can wield every weapon known to man like an expert. No! I mean, surely it takes years of training to master any one weapon, yet this protagonist has literally done it all within like a chapter and a half. It irritates me because obviously a lot of fantasy and dystopian books kind of require that suspension of reality, but you know, I think within that fantasy world you still need to have some sort of realism about it to get invested in it, and when characters suddenly acquire skills that take years to acquire in a matter of pages, it's asking my brain to believe too much. So yes, those are my top 7 least favourite book tropes. I'd really love to hear what your least favourite bookish tropes are, so leave a comment below. But until next time, thank you so much for watching and goodbye.